Hey folks, how's everybody doing? Hopefully you can hear me okay, and sound levels are good. My voice seems to be just about right. I'm not going to overcomplicate this today, although I do plan on doing stuff today a little bit more by the book. Can I get an audio check in chat, by the way? So Aquafunk Holistic Booty Whack, welcome, welcome. What a nerdy song title. Yeah, it is indeed. It'll be better when I can fly this amazing. It'll be better. Yeah. Continue. Welcome aboard. Eduvalum, thank you for the good evening, and hello to you too. It's Jazz Junkie, thanks for the audio check, and Cajun Josh as well. Thank you, folks. So let's get this show on the road. So today I wanted to do a little bit more by the book. So I'm going to be flying on Pilot Edge. I'm going to be trying to do things reasonably well. You know, not trying to be a complete idiot. Fingers crossed we're going to actually get through this without being told off too hard. Today's flight, I don't have an overlay up, but today's flight, if I bring this over to here, I think that'll do, is Eel County to Helena Regional on PE. Both of them should have service on Pilot Edge, so that shouldn't be an issue. And there's a bunch of interesting approaches into Helena. So I'm aiming for this guy here, RMP Yankee, and from Susie, curved segments, all the good stuff. We might do a mist, I don't know. Haven't fully decided yet, but let's see where this takes us. Cool. So let's pretend we got fuel loading completed. We got the passengers, but we got to power up the airplane. Oh. And as usual, before we put power on the jet, I think I got the door here fixed. Theoretically, we could go ahead and where's the door? There's the door. Yes, I think I fixed the door here. So we could pretend we got the door open and everything. So we got people in. All the other good stuff. Still got to put the sounds in for the door and stuff. Cool. And some of the manipulators. So before we power up any APU stuff, we want to make sure that our fire suppression systems are going to work. So those are down here. Normally you use both of these switches at the same time. To do that, I've put on a common click spot. So there's a few of them for a few systems. So for these two, you've got a common click spot. For these two, you've got a common click spot. Also for the landing lights up and down. So all of those can be moved at the same time, and also the windshields if you want to move them manually. The first officer will typically take care of that for you, but Liam Kirk, or hang on, Boss Butt Gaming, thanks for the follow. Welcome aboard. Hope you're going to enjoy your stay. So that's there. So before we move, so first we want to test the engine bottles here. So the squibs, the fire suppression system on the aircraft consists of, there we go. So each of the engines has a, each of the engines can receive fire suppression agent from either one of the two bottles that we got on board here. And so each bottle has a separate squib. So there are a total of 4 squibs we're going to be testing on the engine. So that's what these two switches here do. They test bottle number 1, bottle number 2. So we'll test them both at the same time. Early alarm, I understand reflective reality sim. I hope I'm going to be able to put this on VOD or something. I don't know. But hope you're going to have a good work day tomorrow and all that good stuff. And thanks for stopping by. So we're going to flip these up, and we're looking for right engine squib 1 and 2, left engine squib 1 and 2. So these are your vent squibs here. So those are basically little valves that are kind of explosively opened up, and then they shoot there in the pressure, the bottles here, and they shoot the fire extinguishing agent not into the engine. A lot of people might think that one of the sort of tropes of engine fires on aircraft is they'll, especially I mean in sim, they'll simulate it as flames coming out of the engine. You know, they'll make a big shooty flame out of there. It's not an engine fire, that's a tailpipe, basically a conflagration of the fuel, onboard fuel. An engine fire, the real danger is when the flame is not inside of the engine, but when it's outside of the engine. That's the problem. That's an engine fire. So the lines here actually vent underneath the engine cowls, but not into the engine itself. They vent into this space around the engine. Boss About Gaming, welcome, welcome. So that's what the squibs are for. Same thing also before we actuate the APU to start. The APU has its own fire bottle with dual squibs for redundancy. And what that does is it vents into the APU firebox. So if we hop over back, I'm going to have to sort of mush my face through the compartment here. This is the APU firebox right in here, right? So we're inside of the tail of the aircraft. And the APU sits in here. There's the exhaust. There will be an intake line that we still got a model in here. And the fire squib fires. The squib, the bottle would be over here. And it fires into the box here. So in case you have a fire that gets outside of the APU, that's the problem. So the fire detection loop is sort of displayed here as like a line with a bunch of notches in it and stuff. That's just the attachment point. That's its in the box, but outside of the APU, not in the core of the APU, obviously. You want the flame to be inside of the APU, not get outside. So we'll test that squib as well. We've got a separate switch for that, so flip that open. This is just testing for electrical continuity, because this is an electrically actuated or electrically triggered little fail valve. So you basically apply power to it, and so if you apply enough power, it'll basically just burn through the lock, and it'll release the squib. So we're just testing for electrical continuity, make sure that we can close the circuit. That's all good. And then we're also testing, this is the detection circuits. So up until here, this was all about fire extinguishing. By the way, this part, the fire extinguishers are always powered. Even if we depower the airplane, the detectors are not, but the fire extinguishers are. So for instance, notice that the lamps do come on. If I pushed any of the bottle fire triggers here, it would actually fire the fire extinguishers. And the reason there is pretty simple, because there's the electrical network of the aircraft, and if I go down here, you'll notice some parts are colored. That means they're powered. And so the APU battery and the main battery, well, actually no, the APU battery goes from here. There's the APU battery, goes to connector, DC contactor, some shunts, some buses, and ultimately ends up here, which is the emergency bus. That's what that's what operates the fire extinguishing system. Not necessarily detectors, but the fire extinguishers. So in case, even if the airplane is completely powered off and you saw smoke or flame coming out of here, you know, out of the bypass ducts and everything, you know that the engine's on fire. You can actually go in here, nothing powered on. You can go ahead and fire the fire extinguishers. So that'll do. That'll work, even with the airplane completely without power. Of course, obviously, if you disconnect the batteries, that'll be a different story then. Okay, passenger door, so all these are explainable. So we just tested the extinguishing part. Now we'll also test the detection part. So that is going to basically simulate.
Jet pipe overheat. Jet pipe overheat.
And you'll notice where are you flying tonight? Bottle, I'm flying to from Eagle County in the US to Helena, which is AHLN. Let me put that in the chat in case you want to know. Cool. So you'll notice that it said it had multiple messages here, right? So it had 4 of these.
Jet pipe.
If I bound up a button here, I could push the master warning cancel. Can a Challenger do Aspen? Yes, it can. So you'll notice that it has 4 messages here and then an APU fire message. there are two per engine. There are actually two separate zones, the A and B zone, and they correspond to respective messages. So when you've got a fire in zone A detected, that's right engine fire, left engine fire, and that's the bell you're hearing basically. And if we had a fire in zone B, that'd be a jet pipe overheat.
Jet pipe overheat.
That doesn't generate the bell, but that
Jet
generates
pipe
that
overheat.
continuous jet pipe overheat voice. So there are two separate voices there, or two separate systems that are being tested. Also, obviously, same thing, we get a fire bell for APU fire. That's testing the purple loop over there. And also, one of the things is that these are essentially resistance loops, right? So when they get very, very hot, their resistance lowers. But what if you have what if the loop basically just dead shorts, right? So it just reads either dead shorts or is basically not able to detect a fire reliably. So there's a separate detection circuit that checks to make sure that the loop, when it basically overheats, so to speak, it doesn't I'm sorry, it basically is continuous but not too low. So this checks for a dead short on the loop. This tests the detection of a dead short, the circuit for it. So if we had the loop completely broken or dead shorted, this makes sure that the system that detects a faulty loop is operational. So this basically just simulates a dead short in the loop. And again, also 5 messages for that. Good. So with the fire detection system tested, go ahead and fire up the APU, because now we know that if there was a problem with the APU, we could detect a fire. We wouldn't have a silent fire going on in the back of the aircraft. So power fuel, we get the enunciations here from the ECU. So the APU ECU is booted up, and let's go. We'll do a quick pre-start power on self-test, and there it goes now. There is no inlet flap like on an Airbus, so the APU theoretically could start it right away. It's just the ECU waiting a couple of seconds to let the APU fuel pump power up to pump up the line with fuel and everything, and basically making sure that everything is stabilized. That's why there's about a 10-second delay from you pushing power fuel to actually starting. Cool. So APU says available. After about 10 seconds, we're also going to get a CAS message about it. It's Amber here telling us that you got a APU generator available, but you're not using it, and you don't have any other AC source available. So it's basically telling me, hey, you might want the AC power here from the generator. So go ahead and do that. Get the rest of the avionics fired up. And we'll go ahead and cancel the ATS disconnect or ATS fail message. Got the HUD booting up. Good stuff. Funny story, if anybody wants to know. For maximum confusion, for people transitioning types on an Airbus, that it doesn't show volts of frequency. Yes, it's odd, but that's the way it works, Pancake King. I don't know why, but it really does it that way in the aircraft as well. Honestly, as soon as you got this green light here, it's already been checked. The ECU is already telling you that you've got good volts and good frequency, so really you could just throw it on right away. You don't even have to check it. Cool. AC/DC utility, so this lets the cabin utilities boot up. So what I was trying to say here, for maximum confusion between types, consider it 737, right? 737, this is the auto throttle disconnect right here. And this would be your toga button, right? So they'd be down on the bottom part of it, but they'd be sort of the forward buttons would be toga, and the bottom buttons off to the side would be auto throttle disconnect. It's the exact opposite way on the Challenger. This is toga, this is ATS disconnect. So when I push this, it's gonna give me takeoff guidance. And if I push, I'm going to cancel the flight director here, get rid of it. And if I go ahead and punch in a temperature limit so that the ATS can complete its power up sequence. ATS is now powered up. As soon as I push this, it goes into N1TO armed, so it's ready for takeoff. And to get rid of it, I push this button here, or either one of them will do, and that'll disconnect the ATS. I don't know why they did it that way, but they did. And get rid of the toga flight director. Cool. So let's complete the rest of our overhead items. Nav and logo light is what we want. The rest of it I'm happy with, more or less. Go ahead and arm the emergency exits and the passenger side. Really, I should be doing this sort of by checklist, but let's go in here. So index. I want to go and interrupt menu, flight plan recall. You've seen me do this a number of times. The 650 here is just for me. You can have a different, that's just based on whatever you've got assigned for your fin number and fin brief. Whatever you've created for yourself. That was fast. We must be in high rate data link. We got Eagle to Helena. Speed or SPRKT, whatever that's supposed to be. Poodle. Not all looking good. Susie. And I'm going to just quickly throw on my expected departure. What the hell did I... Oh, right, I'm secondary flight plan. I got to go in here. Activate. Execute. And then go to depart, arrive. And we're going to be departing to the west here. And what was my flight plan calling for originally? Let's see what we actually bever. Bever 1 SPRKT. Execute. And that is looking about right. Cool, let's do checklists. How about that? As I said before, mentioned plenty of times, the Challenger is a checklist heavy aircraft because of the fact that the pilots that fly these generally don't get too many hours in them, so they'll have to basically go and do. Basically, the checklists are designed to be read and do, right? So you do the checklist as you're reading through it, rather than pre-doing everything and then just checking. It's just to minimize the amount of mistakes you make. You know, I'm going to make liberal use of my first officer here. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell him to start with the checklist.
Flight compartment checklist. AC and DC electrics.
So we just want to make sure that we got AC power on the jet, and we got good volts here and good volts. Batteries are there. All the buses are powered. Main battery direct bus that. So the batteries are no longer powering essential and battery bus. So that's good. That's coming off the TRUs, and the TRUs here are also powering. Everything's looking good.
Nav lights, logo light.
You got the nav and logo light on.
Cockpit lights.
You adjust your cockpit lights. I'm just gonna fire up the integral lighting here on all sides, and I'm gonna be calling it good rocket. Oh, right, that kind of makes sense, yeah.
Lamp test.
So lamp test, that's down here. So do test number 1. All making sense. And then the other one. Is there a 2 lamp driver units? Good stuff.
Duct monitor.
Duct monitor is over here. So that's going to test the bleed leak detectors.
Bleed air duct. Bleed air duct.
And then the loop detectors for separately the A and B loop, because there are 2 redundant loops for each of the ducts. And we're looking for loop A test OK down here. Loop B test OK.
Fms Database Status.
We have check. So normally what you do in here, you go to check that you've got a current database. You could cycle through to dump out any previous flight plan. I've already got a flight plan loaded in, so I'm not going to do that. But the flight database is current, and flight plans are already loaded, so all good.
Fms flight plan uplink. ATs.
The flight plan uplink is completed. Let's go ahead and actually fetch the ATIS for Eagle County. AEGE. That was quick. Oh, okay, they don't have data ATIS, so that means I gotta listen to the thing. Hopefully I'm still on pilotage. Apparently I am. So, because I am lazy to look it up on the chart, I could go to index frequency for Eagle County. ATIS is that one. And throw it in radio 2. Why not? I'm gonna listen on radio 2.
Eagle County Regional Airport, ATIS Information Alpha, 2156 Zulu. Wind 220 at 13, gust 18. Visibility 10. 5,500 scattered. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 3008. Arriving and departing runway 25. Visual approaches in use. Read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have Information Alpha. Eagle County Regional Airport, ATIS Information Alpha, 2156 Zulu. Wind 220 at 13, gust 18. Visibility 10. 5,500 scattered. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 3008. Arriving and departing runway 25.
That's good. Heard enough. So, we gotta go and actually swap this over. We were in standard Baro previously because I was messing around with something. So 3008 is the meter. And I gotta switch this guy over into inches mode. So config inches and then 3008. Funnily enough, if you want to know a little bit, another point of trivia about how the Challenger is constructed, this knob here is not wired into any system here. This knob is actually remotely wired into this here, part of the DCP. So there's a board back here with a bunch of wires that are coming out and snaking their way all the way around the panel and coming in here, just for this one knob. Really neat seeing a ground speed of 1 while stationary. That's a good TTS voice. Yes. This shows how deep the systems go. Yeah. And the one and only plane. Thanks for the follow. Welcome aboard. Hope you're going to have fun. Okay, let's get going here. So, next item on the checklist.
Anti-skid.
Anti-skid. We'd go ahead and test it. Want an anti-skid and test, so that's good, and it's armed.
Nose door.
Nose door, we have somebody, you know, if we had the nose door open, we could go ahead and check, make sure that we don't crush anybody's fingers there. It's clear.
Hydraulic 3A pump.
Hydraulic 3A. Fire you up, and bring up the hydraulic page. Hydraulic is going to fire up.
Brake pressure.
Brake pressure is this thing here, so inboard brakes. The Challenger has 2 sets of brakes on each wheel. And so we've got inboard only on the system 3 hydraulics. That's the one we're going to use for parking brake. Both of them actually are capable of parking brakes, just when you've got everything shut down, you only normally run the inboard brakes.
Parking brake.
So go ahead and push on the pedals, pull the parking brake lever up. Show you what it looks like. So push on the pedals. I'm gonna make sure I gotta check whether misaligned. And pull on the parking brake, and then you can release the pedals. And we would verify they got a green parking brake on.
Nose door.
Nose door, we want to make sure that if it was open, make sure we signal the person in front to close it. And we also want to make sure that we don't have there would be a red nose door cast message there.
Hydraulic panel and pumps.
At this point, we just want to make sure we've got all the pumps running, or rather in auto. They're actually not going to run until the engines are, until engine generators are online and we've got the flaps out. Normally, only 3A pump is running and the engine-driven pumps. The B pumps are backups and additional demand pumps if we're taking off and landing and stuff. Nice inboard and outboard brakes on separate hydraulic systems like an ERJ. Yes.
Electric panel.
The electric panel, we just want to make sure that we don't have any unexplainable lights here. You know, we were on AC power, we want to make sure that that's pushed out. It actually prefers APU power, so it's already not going to be in use, but we just want to make sure that we got a button pushed out, and if nothing else unexplainable.
AC/DC utility switch.
We're going to make sure that this switch here is pressed out, so that the cabin utilities and entertainment systems can boot up.
Start ignition panel.
Just make sure everything is off there.
Fuel panel.
Fuel panel, we can go ahead and do the double smiley check. So that'll be this on. I'm going to make sure both green. This on opens. This on opens. This on. Now this guy's going to go out because there's an interlock between them. And push this one on, push this one off. We want them to stay running. Push this one out. This one should open. The interlock's going to release. Gravity crossflow closes. Right aux closes. No stuck valve. And push this one out. Both should go off. There we go. And we get a cast message. That's the double smiley check completed.
APU LVD.
So we just want to make sure that we got enough time given to the APU to warm up. It's 2 minutes. But we got plenty of time. I'll take my time here.
10th stage isolation valve.
That's this guy here. So we got pressure on both. A lot of people might be asking initially, you know, where's the bleed system display on a Challenger? It's not on here. This is the only synoptic pages you got. ACLX, hydraulic, DCLX flight controls. And it's under here, summary. And it's only present as a data line here. So that's all you get. Bleed pressure, left and right. That's all you get. All you can see, really.
Packs.
X. Left on. Right on. You can see the APU getting loaded down with the bleed load. The one button operates both boost pumps. Well, yes. Yeah. Pancaking, whenever you push one of these, either one of these is enough. It's basically enabling a monitoring circuit. So if this detects, if you got this pushed in, it enables a detection circuit on the right engine feed line. And if it's low pressure coming out of the primary engine ejector pump, or primary ejector pump, which is basically the thing that feeds, let me show you, engines, fuel system, and there we go. This is what this looks like. So there's a detection circuit ahead of this check valve here that checks this. These ejector pumps are what primarily normally feeds the engines. These are basically driven by engine-driven motive fuel flow, and they are what primarily supplies the engines with fuel. Because as you can see, you know, obviously on the Challenger, we got to pump fuel uphill. Tanks are down here, engines are up there. It's not going to gravity feed like on an Airbus. So you need always positive pressure to make sure fuel is getting pushed up into the engines. And to do that, the Challenger has a pair of jet pumps or ejector pumps down in the belly, down pretty much at the lowest point of the fuselage, or the lowest point of the tanks. And in case these fail for whatever reason, you got a pair of backup electric pumps in the sort of in the center as well, and they are able to provide backup pressure in case the ejectors fail. Yes, they sort of make more sense with the engines are running. So this only checks the right side currently, and since both are actually and the way it works is as soon as one turns on, they both turned on. It's a joined up wiring system, and if I push this out, it'll now shut down. It basically disables the monitoring circuit, and both of them turn off at the same time. So this is really just checking to make sure the respective monitoring circuit works. It actually makes more sense, as Graham said there, when one of the engines is running, you can actually turn off this button and it'll basically not make a difference, but on the shutdown engine it will make a difference. Okay, cool. So is that out of the way? We check the fuel pumps and all that stuff. Yes, packs are on.
Air conditioning panel.
That's just checking, you know, whatever you've got settings for. We can put cabin control into the cabin. We can set up their temperature zones and modes for temperature control. This is kind of a backup system in case you get the auto temperature control failed.
Pressurization panel.
Pressurization is up here. We could set this up to a landing field elevation, which, let me actually check. I forgot to check what the field elevation is at our destination. Elena, where are you? 10-9, it is 3877. You could set this up on our departure as well, but the system is smart enough. It will keep departure field elevation pressurization for a little while in case you need to do a quick turn back. And 3008 was about there. And since the button enables the pump, it sees low pressure and turns on. Yes, exactly, pancaking. That's exactly how it works. Cool. And we can also check that in case we've got a faulty lamp here, because that lamp is not tested by the lamp test. We go ahead and turn down, just making sure that the fault lamp here comes on for a little bit and then goes out. Stuff.
Bleed air panel.
Bleed air panel, just make sure the 14 stages pushed out, the engine bleeds are pushed out, and these are 2 are pushed in because that's the ones we need.
Supplemental ground wing anti-ice panel switch.
That's this off switch. We want to make sure that it is not turned on because that disables the supplemental ground wing anti-ice system. Or if we do want it off, then that's the way we keep it.
Cowl anti-ice switches.
Cowl anti-ice. This, I think for first flight of the day, we're just checking to make sure that we don't got a fault here. So we push those in, and we're just checking to make sure that there are no faults coming on. They're not going to. They're not actually going to do much of anything because we don't have any pressure in there. They default to open. So if the valves were stuck, closed or something, then we would know about it. But they are pressure with no bleed pressure in the lines. The right bleed from the engine is open, and the right cowl anti-ice is open because this is considered the safe position, right? If you have a fault in any of these control circuits or any of the control lines that are controlling these valves, you want the anti-ice on because that is the safer position for them to basically fail into. Cool. It's actually, I think we should have kept those. Actually, no, not yet. Thank you. Taking a sip of my water here because I'm talking a lot. Cool.
Anti-ice panel.
Anti-ice panel. So we'll do a check and test of it. So we'd go ahead and these are the tests for the ice detection system. Wing anti-icing. Does the Challenger have leading edges? Yes. Hot wing. Captain Beanie. In fact, you can I do I have this displayed? Yes, please. Do I have this displayed on here? I think I kind of do. Yeah, there we go. 2 left wing anti-ice duct, 2 right wing anti-ice duct. So it's a hot wing system. Cool. So we'll go ahead and pull this guy over into the detector test. Challenger does have a single ice detector, which is located on the right side of the nose. So if I jump out, it's right there. A little ice detector. And you know the way it works. It basically just vibrates at like 40 kilohertz or something like that. There's a little vibration motor in there. Actually, I think it's piezoelectrically vibrated. And there's a feedback circuit that monitors the principal, the fundamental frequency of the vibration, and it is basically given by the weight of the piece of metal here. And if there's any ice buildup, this is not heated initially. And if there's any ice buildup, even a couple millimeters, this will change vibrational frequency, and that will be detected as ice. And then the ice detector goes through a 50-second heat up period where it will heat up, shed the ice, and check again. So it basically goes on about a minute cycle. If you do get an ice warning, it'll stay on there. Even if you turn on the anti-ice and all the ice gets shed off, it'll stay on there for at least about a minute or 2 until it basically goes away, because that's when the cycling rate of the ice detector. So this is just checking that the ice detector can send an ice signal, and we're receiving it on the data concentrator units. And then we also got the wing overheat detector down here in case we've got a faulty bleed system.
Wing overheat.
The wing is temperature controlled, so when you put this over to norm or to standby, there are temperature switches in the wing that make sure that you don't overheat the wing system. If you blast it with 400-degree air, that might cause some issues. Make MEMS mechanical sensors using the same principle with coated surfaces that selectively bind chemicals. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, those are much more sophisticated than this thing, but...
Wing overheat.
Cool. So that's all done.
Emergency lights.
Emergency lights, we want to make sure that those are armed.
Passenger signs.
Initial flight of the day, we'd go ahead and flip them on. We want to make sure we get the white emergency lights on. CAS message there. And as soon as we're done with them, we'll go ahead and flip this over to ARM, and they're good. Because these are running on a separate power supply. That's all simulated, of course. Separate power supply, separate battery system. Just for the emergency lights, because they're kind of important to be on in case the rest of the aircraft completely dies of power.
ELT.
ELT is over here. We're just trying to make sure that it's armed. You do not flip this over to on, because otherwise you get a nasty call.
Flare shield panel.
Flare shield panel, just making sure that everything is set up the way we want it here. Adjusted your HUD and stuff.
Crew and passenger oxygen.
So we go ahead and check our oxygen. gotta make this properly respond to the interphone settings and everything. So left and right, and then we also look over here. Passenger oxygen is normal. Therapeutic oxygen is disabled.
DC warning panel.
That's this guy here. We want to make sure that they're not pushed in, because that would silence the DCU audio systems.
CVR.
I still got to implement this guy.
Audio panels.
Audio panels will be these and these. Want to make sure that they're set up the way we want them, which they are.
SPS system.
SPS. So the SPS test is. I usually skip it, but this time I'm going to do it sort of mostly by the book. I think that I'm going to skip a couple of steps in it, but mostly by the book. So you've got left and right stall warning systems that are here. SPS stands for stall protection system. So SPS system really says stall protection system. Kind of a weird phrasing, but it's in the checklist. The Challenger has both a stick shaker here and here. And then there's under the floor here for the co-pilot, there's a stick pusher, which is bound, obviously since the yokes are connected, it basically pushes both yokes forward in case it gets really, really bad on the stall. And the way it works is when the stall, so this is the angle of attack indicator really. When the angle of attack gets into this blue part here, you're going to get ignition system. Beyond yellow here, you're going to get the stick shaker. And in the red here, you're going to get stick pusher. But there are two independent angle of attack indicators. In fact, see one of them's over here, and the other one's, obviously on the other side. And they both got to agree that we are in the stick pusher alpha region before they will actuate the stick pusher, because the stick pusher is fairly brutal. It like doesn't discriminate. So it'll literally yank the yoke out of your hands and push it forward if it detects that you're so deep in a stall that it's basically got to do something to get you out of there. So if I just actuate one of them, you'll notice the test system goes through a sweep. You get the shaker, but no shaker here, no pusher, and nothing else. We do get the ignition system coming on, so even if I do a single channel test, let's do just a single channel test. Ignition AB on, and we can also confirm that over here we got the ignition lamps on. Don't forget to trim full forward before SPS check. Yeah, you could. It's yes, there is some value in that, I guess, so it doesn't really bang on the controls too badly. So nose down, I think. That should give us maximum travel on the trim. This way we also test the clacker. This is a trim runaway clacker. There we go. So this is the other channel here. Oh, I'm actually gonna make the yokes, normal size. And nothing here, so that's expected. Ignition is on that because it'll reduce airflow to the engines in the stall. Captain Beanie, it's because at very high angles of attack. The reason, I've been talking about this for a while here. We got a lot of wind here. Engines are spinning happy. If I bring up the debug screen here, you're going to be able to see. You'll see that the fan is and the compressors are tucked in way inside of the inlet here. There's a long inlet line here. Now, ever wondered why didn't they just, cut this part of the inlet much shorter to save a bunch of weight on the aircraft? And the reason is, axial flow compressors really hate it if the air that's coming in is coming in at an angle and or is turbulent. So the reason for this long inlet is basically it's a flow straightener, right? So if the inlet air is coming at a high angle of attack, you can get inlet turbulence here. That's going to get sucked into the compressor, and that can cause a compressor blade stall. If you have a compressor blade stall, there's a good chance you're going to get an engine flame out. But I want to do that full speed. I want it to go slow. So the reason for the inlet being long, it's basically to help straighten the flow. But at sufficiently high angles of attack, especially during a stall, you can still get a compressor stall. So the ignition here is basically make sure that in case you get any transients in the flame in the combustor, you basically want to make sure that it catches right away again as soon as you start recovering from the stall, or if there's any instability in the combustion, you basically want to make sure that it catches right away. That's why the ignition comes on so quick. And let's do the dual test. So this is holding both switches up, and you'll see that both are gonna sweep through their test. And as soon as we get to that red point there, we get the stick pusher. Now there's an additional, obviously, not a problem, Pilsners. You'll notice there's a button on here that says APSP Disconnect. So it's Autopilot Stick Pusher Disconnect. Because what if the stick pusher malfunctions, or you got a spurious dual stall warning or whatever, and all of a sudden your controls get yanked out of your hands, and that's a problem, right? So in that case, the correct response is you have to have this bound up to your, or rather you're supposed to basically have your hand on here and quickly mash the SP disconnect in case that's a spurious signal. So I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to, on my joystick, I'm going to push the Autopilot Disconnect button, and the stick pusher releases. And same thing on the other side, because these are independent buttons. We do have them modeled independently. If you want to make a full dual cockpit, you can. And also here, if I push this, I gotta be basically able to release the stick pusher. I can slightly try and overpower it, but the stick pusher is fairly strong. So even if I pull hard on my stick, it will not actually let me go all the way up. It's trying, you know, really hard to push forward. There's a third switch here you would use a third finger for, but I don't really have a button bound up for that right now. To test, there's a function on the stick pusher, because the stick pusher, you know, it pushes the stick essentially all the way forward. And if you did that, and if you do that hard enough at a sufficient speed, you're basically going to get, so to speak, cabin air time, in the sense that everything's basically going to go negative G and you're going to fly up into the ceiling. That'd be a bad thing generally, especially during an emergency. So to limit the chances of basically the jet aggravating your stall, there's inside of the stall protection, there's the stick pusher, there's a little solenoid that is sensitive to local accelerations, and if the system detects less than 0.5 Gs of downforce, meaning basically the push over has succeeded, right? So we're unloading the wing, it'll basically release half of the pressure on the stick pusher, and that lets you basically pull it a little bit out of the stick push. So it won't, instead of, you know, going full forward stick, it might go only maybe half a forward stick. And that is basically to limit the chance of it sending you flying into the ceiling of the cabin here. This test here, a G-switch test, just simulates, basically simulates what would happen. I can basically sort of do the test here if I bind up a command, G-switch or test G-switch. There we go. I'll bind up a button here for that. Have a good one, Graham. Thanks for stopping by. Fill the boss's drink and he'd be unhappy. Yeah. So I'm going to do the test now with the G-switch unload. So this is going to simulate as if we had unloaded the wing already, and you'll see the stick pusher is going to unload a little bit. So I'll hold this down. Stick pusher is full forward. I'm going to press the G-switch unload, and it releases a little bit of the stick pusher pressure, and I can actually pull more on the stick pusher with the G-switch activated. If I release the G-switch, stick pusher is going to again shove the stick hard forward. So this is basically designed to, you know, this is just layers upon layers of what ifs, right? So what if we have a stall? Well, we've got a stick pusher, right? Or a stick shaker. If you don't recover, we've got a stick pusher. But what if the stick pusher is faulty? We've got a stick pusher disconnect. What if the stick pusher is over pushing you forward and it's going to send you into the ceiling? And we got to have a pressure release that is actuated by local gravity, and that kind of, it's just layers upon layers of possible systems. Also, both of them have to be enabled. You'll see as soon as I switch one of them off, so these are actually wired through. So there's separate switches here. As soon as I disable any one of them, the stick pusher is inactive. That's in case you had a stick pusher activation, a spurious one, right? So let's just do, and how do I do this? Sure, I'm gonna do this like so. Stick pusher, yes. I'm going to bind this up to a button. So now I have a keyboard key for toggling this switch. I'm going to enable it, and this is what you would do during a faulty stick pusher recovery, right? So we'll simulate that the stick pusher is going to activate. And oh shit, stick pusher's forward, so I'll quickly mash the APSB disconnect, but I can't hold the button for forever. So to work around that, I can now reach over with my other hand, flip the stall protection of the stick pusher off, and now I can let go of the APSB disconnect button. Now the stick shaker is still going to shake. That's just nothing you can do about that, you just gotta live with it. But you can at least control the aircraft now. It's going to be loud, it's going to be obnoxious, it's going to be annoying, but it won't actually shove you into the ground, and you won't have to remember to keep your finger on a button here constantly, because if you forget it, it would start pushing forward again and give you a bad day. Oh. Keep talking here, huh? Hour and 20, or probably half hour in the stream more. 50 minutes into the stream, and we're not even past the flight compartment checklist. Gotta speed this up.
Integrated standby instrument.
Okay, standby instrument is checked and set. Yeah, we got the pressure set.
Clock.
Reset. There's no timer on.
FSI, cause
Just making sure that we've got reasonable, indications here. We got reasonable oil temp. We got a reasonable fuel indications, engine indications, or none of them are dashed out and everything.
main landing gear bay overheat.
It's down here. We'll go ahead and check.
Gear bay overheat.
That's in case you have a wheel well fire. Same things as a fire loop. You have a loop dead short check circuit, so we'll make sure that that works as well. So the check for the check.
TOS warning switches.
Just making sure that this is the Egypt West that you would know. We don't have any of them enabled because that would kill the corresponding modes. We'd also do a quick test. So you just grab this switch and hold it for a couple of seconds. It'll light up a button here, and we'll go through the minimum TOS test. And you also can verify that you got a terrain database that's current or whatever. Generally, terrain databases don't really change all that much. But they are valid for many years. Terrain usually does not go and change on you just spontaneously.
Pitch and roll disconnect.
I just want to make sure that these are pushed in and stowed. One thing, a piece of trivia I learned. Hey, Caesar, how are you doing? One piece of trivia we learned from our consultants is, Pilsners, you might be able to remember that a little bit better, but a lot of people, when they want to check that these are pushed in, they'll rest their hands on it, basically slam their hand on it, make sure that it's in. So rest your palm on it, push in. This is a glow-in-the-dark sticker. That glow-in-the-dark sticker, if memory serves right, that's a $5,000 sticker on here if you rub it off, and it will eventually rub off. And replacing that stupid sticker is like $5 grand. Is this plane out? It's not yet Cypher 465. It's under development. It will be out soon, but not yet.
Ground spoilers.
So ground spoilers, we want to make sure that these are in auto. They are. It's just the center position.
Thrust reversers
Are checked and stowed, and actually we want to make sure that we arm them. They are now armed, and we don't have these two buttons pushed in, so we want to make sure those are out.
Thrust levers.
Thrust levers are checked and shut off.
Engine speed switches.
Speed switches are down here. There's your engine N1 control.
Engine vibration check.
Engine vibration check is down here. That's the vibe check. Bring up the ICAS, and we're looking for N1 vibes to go amber and the N2 vibes to go amber.
Oral warning.
That's down here. There are two separate oral warning systems, or DCUs, the data concentrator units, and we can test each of them individually. Now, when you want to stop the warning, when you start it, you flip it up, and if you want to stop the system, flip it up again. Don't do this. Because now you started a test on both DCUs in parallel, and they're going to talk over each other. It's just an analog audio circuit. So to stop them, go like this, or you can just leave it and let it go through. The entire test takes about 20 seconds.
Smoke detector.
Smoke detector is down here. It has two smoke detector circuits.
Smoke. Smoke.
Trims mock trim.
Trim check. Oh, we've got those fired up. Mock trim is enabled. We don't have any amber cast messages. And do a full trim test. And we'd go and for each of the yokes here, we want to make sure that button moves, switch moves, and the trim is moving in correspondence. Same thing here. There's actually a funny thing about this is there is a priority logic which you can test. We do simulate it all. And which switch you're moving depends on where your view is, right? So when you're on the right side of the cockpit, you move the right side switch. If I show you over on the left side yoke, I'm moving my control here, but that thing ain't moving, right? So it basically now means my hand is on the right yoke. But there's a priority system override. What if this switch here is stuck in, let's say, which one's the nose up, right? Or it's giving us purest nose up input. Radioluminescent, probably why it's expensive. Probably Pilsner, I don't know. So we put this to nose up and we got a spurious, trim going on. Like, holy crap, now what do we do? So the captain actually has priority. So if I put this guy to actually nose down, he's gonna override what the right seater is trying to do. If I let go, right seater is still trimming. You can see that over like this. So there is a priority system, and left side has priority. Actually, I'm still holding it, aren't I? Yes, I am. So I want to go nose down. Cool. Same thing, we'd also check our roll and yaw trim. So that's these guys here. Don't be fooled by the fact that both of them are moving at the same time. These are split switches. If you want to, you can bind them up separately if you have controls for that. So we'll check that the aileron trim goes all the way left. And the flip side as well. I'm not going to go all the way. Who cares? Cool. I just want to make it centered. Close enough. Same thing for the yaw trim. Want to make sure that it moves one and the other way. And obviously in real life, you'd make it go all the way to one side and then all the way to the other side. It ain't exactly a quick check. Good.
Yaw dampers.
Yaw dampers. We want to mash those in. Make sure we don't get any cast messages about them. You could also check the disconnects. Good. And by the way, also for trims, in case you got a runaway trim condition, we also check that our snap trim cutouts, which are up here on the yoke, work. So we'll go ahead and trim. Hold through the clacker. Push. Snap trim stops. And also disconnects both trim channels, so I gotta re-enable them. And same thing on the other side. This switch. Wait for the clacker. Push. Snap trim disconnected. So those are all your runaway trim checks. And all the other trim checks.
Reversionary inhibit switches.
So those are basically in here. We want to make sure that none of the tune inhibits are pushed in. Norm, center, norm, left, and norm. If you want it, you could push the ICAS over to the other side if the right seater is going to be flying. That's also good. IRSs are aligned. So those are good. We don't have any messages here. We do have a valid heading. All that as well. We don't have an IRS3 aligning. Good.
CPDLC.
CPDLC, we could actually go ahead and grab that from Pilot Edge since I am on PE. They might have my CPDLC clearance today. Let me just grab that. I'm currently using an external program for that. Let's see if they have my clearance ready. I might have actually timed it out by now. Yeah, log on denied. Never mind. We'll pick it up by voice. So
TCAS.
TCAS first flight of the day. So quick check. Go in here. Tuning. ATC. And just do a quick test. Push this once. You'll get a TCAS test here running and on the other side as well. I'll get a voice.
TCAS system test okay.
That's all good.
ATs and clearance.
So we now go ahead and pick up our clearance, and hopefully they have not forgotten about me yet.
Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter
Frequency, where's
3010.
ground?
Arriving
Clearance
and departing runway 25.
124.75.
LDA runway.
It looks like runway 16 right is open again. Do you need that?
How's
departure?
PE voice levels for you guys?
We should be okay in 16 left for 6 Papa Franco Lima.
Cool, let me get that ready.
For this 2219 Oakland Center, descend
Bring
to
up
Zone 3
my-
arrival. Oakland altimeter 2994.
Eagle clearance, good afternoon. Challenger 650 Charlie Lima, IFR to Helena. Hopefully this worked. Oh, but yes, button works. And I'm talking on radio too. Okay, let me check on charts. I messed up. So chart says clearance. ATIS, Denver clearance 124.75 when tower is in op. Oh, okay, so we're supposed to call tower. 1980 or maybe ground. 121.8, yeah, ground. 1218. Eagle ground. Good afternoon, Challenger 650 Charlie Lima, IFR to Helena, please.
Charlie, contact departure.
Maybe it's not recording from the correct device here. Alright, yeah, it isn't.
Charlie.
It needs to go from this one. Yes. Okay. Eagle ground, good afternoon, Challenger 650 Charlie Lima, IFR to Helena, please.
November 650 Charlie Lima, Eagle ground, runway 25, taxi via Alpha.
I think he thought I said something completely different. Just to confirm, previous call was November 650 Charlie Lima at Eagle County, calling for clearance to Helena.
November 650 Charlie Lima, yes, sorry, I was under the impression you had already been given a clearance, but it looks like you haven't. You're cleared to Helena Airport, Beaver 1 departure, sprocket transition, and then as filed. On via SID, except maintain 15,000. Departure frequency 120.47, squawk 5552.
Helena, clear to Helena, Beaver, departure, sprocket transition, then as filed, climb via set, except maintain 15,000, 120.47 for departure, and 5552 in the box for November 650 Charlie Lima.
0 Charlie Lima, read back correct.
Yeah, it's the clearance to, or the push to think button, as they call it. Cool. So we got Beaver, sprocket, that's all cleared up. Initial is up to 15K. So just go ahead and set that up over on the Avionics. The old Avionics. There we go. Set that up. Actually, I'm going to take synthetic vision right away. Cool. Now let's do the departure performance as well. Go perf, takeoff. We've got weather. Actually, could have had a... I'm gonna have it quick. Running on VDL mode too. There we go. So whether it's 2709, probably should have grabbed the latest ATIS. 2709. Slant 9. I said slant 9.
739er Sierra Charlie.
Temp is 8.
This is Ejector Pump Alpha Tango Lima Arena Tower, runway 16 left, clear for takeoff.
Okay, that's good. I'm gonna quiet him down again a little bit. Perf takeoff 3008, and actually I think the meter got adjusted 3010. So meter 3010. Full runway is 25, head and right crosswind. Understood. We're gonna do a bleedless takeoff. Thrust reversers are both operative. Runway is dry. Yeah, there's nothing too bad. Cool, and I'm happy with these speeds, so I'll go ahead and send it.
FMS flight plan, wind update, perf.
So wind update, we can actually go, and one more thing I gotta punch in here. I gotta punch in our cruise altitude, which is level 400. And we have 9,200 pounds of fuel on board. We actually do have a certain number of people on board. We'll call it 4 people and 100 pounds of bags. Execute. That actually cleared out my takeoff performance, so I'm gonna refetch that or recompute that. That's all good. And for wind update, we'll go in here and do a wind request. That's program
Takeoff data.
set.
Avionics charts.
That's all set up for charts anyway.
Flight instruments.
Flight instruments, we'll check that. We've got FMS navigating. Heading initially is going to be runway heading, which is, well, 253. I'm just going to push that in there, but we're going to go into LNAV mode right away, because there's a quick turn right on departure. We go and check out the departure procedure. 206 on the initial heading. Actually, I'm going to pre-select 206 just to be on the safe side. So there is 206 set. Runway is going to be immediate turn, left turn, soon as practicable, no later than DER. And the Cooper. That's just fetched that's just gotten the wind for me. So I'll confirm that. So 1700 or climb on a heading of 206 to 7100, then Cooper, Indes, Beaver, Aparis, max 225, 13100 or above. Yes, that's checked. And the auto throttle system is going to keep me, or the VNAV is actually able to comply with that restriction. I'm going to set this up to 200. There is no other constraint initially, is there? No, no other constraint. So 200 is safe. Then 1700 or above Gorman. And then Sprocket direct. And then we're on to our en route portion, so I'll consider that our departure brief.
Departure briefing.
Yes, departure brief is completed.
Emergency procedures.
Yell if you've got any problems.
Pins, covers, chocks.
Chocks, actually, we got to bring on board. So chocks are away.
Cabin lights, water heaters, master seat.
Really, there is a constraint until Cooper. Coded, is what you said.
Flight compartment
I'll
checklist
complete
complete.
that.
Engine start checklist next.
Doesn't appear to be any notes about that. Why do you see that, Pancake King? Top of the chart. RNAV 1 on departure, rising terrain. Alright, do not exceed until established direct Cooper. Interesting. Probably. Well, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna make that. Yes. I see that now, what you mean. Interesting that it didn't code that, but whatever. I can tell you right away we're not going to exceed that speed on departure anyway, so that's all good for us. Quickly punch in our transponder code 5552. Is set, and let's go. I'm going to jump outside and close up the door. So, passenger doors closed, green lamp there, good stuff. And let's do the before start checks. So we've got nobody we're about to run over.
Engine start checklist. Doors.
Closed.
Parking brake and pressure.
Brake is good, parking brake, or pressure is good, indicating parking brake is on.
Fuel quantity and balance.
Is good and check, we're going to be within 400 pounds, and we are.
Beacon.
Is on.
Fuel boost pumps.
Are going to be on.
Ignition.
What's the date today? It's the 19th, odd number. I'm going to go ignition A.
Engine 2 start.
Rock and roll. Spool them. Let go of the button after the lamp comes on. Well, that's max motoring. Yeah, they're going pretty good, aren't they? I can give you the exact wind speed that's going through the engines because I have my little debug screen. Negative 9.1 knots. Good stuff. And it is 60 RPM on the fan there. Even got the core spinning a little bit, 4 RPMs. Do you have different takeoff trim settings for different weights, or is the green band general? Basically, most of the green band is fine. I'm gonna set it up for 6. About the middle of the green band there is pretty cool. About there is pretty much perfect for takeoff. Cool.
Fuel system.
So fuel system check is what Graham was talking about. So if I switch this button here off, you'll see nothing happens. And if I switch the other one off, because the left engine is not running, they'll both turn off. Because this one is already powered by the ejector pump. I'm also looking for fuel low pressure. And that's checking to make sure that there's a check valve here. This check valve here. Make sure that this ejector is not cross-pressurizing the other side of the fuel system. They got to be isolated. So that's checking to make sure that we get that message. Stuff.
Engine 1 start.
I mean, you'd be surprised how little difference it makes. Here we go. If you have a lot of tail fuel, it might change, but generally I fly without tail fuel. Just I don't really fly long enough for routes to warrant the need for it. Okay, engine stable.
Engine start checklist complete. After start checklist next.
Cool. Good. Let's start the after starts.
After start checklist. Generator 1 and 2.
We're gonna get a cast message since we're not got the generators on, so those are coming on.
Ignition.
Off.
Packs.
On.
14th stage.
Open.
Cowl anti-ice.
I'll push those in. Make sure that I've got my little cheat sheet here. And we'll start a little timer as well.
Flight controls.
We want to make sure that we got 2 green lamps on here. Now there's a timer here we're running to check the supplemental ground wing anti-ice, and for that I'm just basically doing some other stuff, checking the flight controls for correctness and freedom. That's all good. Left side, right side, good.
Ground spoilers.
Go ahead and shove them into arm. They should pop up. Auto, they'll go away. Disarm, it won't come on.
Flight spoilers.
We'll check them. They'll come up, but without the ground spoilers since they're in disarm. Put them into auto. They'll come on. Stow it. All spoilers go away. Stowed.
Cowl anti-ice.
Green advisory messages on. And
Supplemental
also on
ground
here.
anti-ice.
Cal anti-ice on. We'll push the test on here. Supplemental ground wing anti-ice. And that's now taken within 2 minutes of this timer. This is going to go into test OK. Otherwise we will get either a fail low or fail high.
Fuel balance.
We want to make sure that it's still within bounds, so we're within 200 or 400 pounds.
Trims.
3 set for takeoff, so we'll make sure that we got, you know, for us, center of green band is good. Center, or 0, 0.
Nose steer.
We'll arm that. You hear that ka-chunk.
APR.
That's down here, so test APR 1. APR 1 test OK. Back. APR 2 test OK.
ADG unit.
That's back here. Should only light up the little lamp here. And if I hold it for 2 seconds, still it goes out. So that's good. That's a good ADG unit test. Should come on for 2 seconds, go out while still holding the switch, and can release it.
Supplemental ground wing anti-ice.
Within 2 minutes we got test OK. So that goes out. Cancel the timer.
Cowl anti-ice.
Goes off.
Wing anti-ice.
Gonna switch it over to norm.
14th stage isolation.
This is needed
valve.
to test the isolation valve for the 14th stage. Opens. Closes.
Wing anti-ice.
Off. And good.
ATS.
We didn't get a fault either. To get the ATS to come on, we gotta push toga. Get the ATS toga mode, and we got ATS N1TO. I can go ahead and cancel the flight director for the time being. N1TO.
ATC TCAS.
ATC TCAS will switch you over into altitude on.
After start checklist complete. Taxi checklist next.
And with this out of the way, we can go ahead and look around and call for taxi. We're still on ground, so that's all good. Actually, I should probably go ahead and fetch new ATIS, so I'm going to do that. What was it? The ATIS frequency again. Index frequency.
Walker 600, excuse me, NorCal approach Walker 602, flight level 190, descending via the Surfer 4 with
Row 10, arriving and departing runway 25. LDA runway 25 approach in use. Read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information Bravo.
Yes,
Eagle
we're on
County Regional Airport. 8 is information Bravo. 2256 Zulu. Wind 260 at 9R. Visibility 10. Ceiling 5000 broken. Temperature 8. Dew point -3. Altimeter 3010.
Okay.
Arriving, departing runway 25. LDA runway
Recall.
25.
Good stuff. So I gotta change a little bit about my performance computations here. Takeoff. I got the wind in. 260 at 9. 260 at 9 or
Say again.
3010. Temperature 8 is all good. So send that.
Number 9 Sierra Charlie
Hold out.
Springs approach 124.0.
124.0, 739, Sierra Charlie.
Okay.
Walker 542, heavy contact departure.
Departure, Walker 542 heavy.
Eagle ground, November 650 Charlie Lima at Vail Jet Center, and we're looking for taxi with information Bravo.
Walker 542, Seattle departure, radar contact, climb maintain 15,000.
Didn't get in.
15,000, Walker 542.
Southwest 2219, contact NorCal approach 135.65.
3565, Southwest 2219.
650 Charlie Lima, Eagle ground runway 25, taxi via Alpha.
25 via Alpha, November 650 Charlie Lima. Cool. Straightforward. Alpha and over to 25.
Demo radar.
That's expected. Taxi lights coming on. Brake south.
739er Sierra Charlie, Springs approach, go ahead.
Quick brake check.
Just want to make sure that I have you guys tuned in. Appreciate
Brakes
that.
are good.
739 Sierra Charlie.
Okay, yep. Set your altitude.
9,500 feet, sir.
November 739er Sierra
We
Charlie,
got
roger.
control on my headset here.
Current Springs, altimeter 29905.
Make a left.
29905, information kilo, 739 Sierra Charlie.
So that is over there is Alpha. So that's all good. That's what we're aiming for. Not gonna get run over by anybody so far. Put the flaps to 20. Let's go ahead and do the taxi checks. Just in time to see. Welcome, Amy.
Taxi checklist.
Look out for Southwest 2019, 9,500 descending via.
On wing and cowl anti-ice.
Not required.
Brakes and steering.
Check.
Southwest
Reverse
2298.
thrust.
Go ahead and check reverse.
NorCal approach F Franny, cleared ILS.
Reverse thrust is
runway
good.
30 approach.
This is a fail on the
Well,
ATS.
30
That's also
approach is
expected.
Franny,
Push the
Southwest
ATS disconnect once. Just back into N1TO. So let's check.
If taxiing to de-ice, pause checklist here until paper. De-ice checklist is complete.
Not necessary.
Flaps. 20. Altimeters. Set cross-checked. Radar weather. On. Takeoff briefing.
As been reviewed. So it's going to be left turn 206. Climb to 15K. Comply with the restrictions. I'm going to go ahead and take takeoff, LNAV, and VNAV.
Taxi checklist complete. Before takeoff checklist next.
Cool. So, getting
Walker
up
542, contact
to the runway.
Center 126.6.
I'm just going to quickly stop here to get my charts in order and everything. So, stop here. Parking brake.
Walker 602, contact
So
NorCal.
I
approach
don't need the charts over here. I
135.65.
want the engine indications at this point, and then I want charts here to be on the departure, which they are already. Stuff and set it close, and let's run the before takeoff check. Actually, one more thing I want to bring up
NorCal, good afternoon, Marker
on
602,
radio 1.
11,000,
I'll bring up
descending via
tower.
Echo.
Which, where are you?
Walker 5, correction Walker
I gotta
602.
bring up the other chart again to
NorCal
grab
approach,
tower.
Eddie, cleared ILS, runway 28
19.8.
approach.
198.
Right approach, Walker 602.
And our departure frequency
Walker
is
542,
12047.
230.
12047. Punch that into the preset. We're ready to go on that. I'm gonna switch you off, switch you on, and mic to number 1. And let's go talk to tower. Roll you back. Cool.
Denver radar,
Crap, just wanted to key the mic.
739
Somebody
Sierra
else jumped
Charlie,
in.
18.5 miles to the north, inbound, with information kilo.
Actually, one more thing. I can tune
Niner
this over to
Sierra
the
Charlie, Roger,
VOR.
Springs approach now.
Moving to Colorado Springs approach.
Is there a DOR,
739.
or did I just
Sierra Charlie.
misread that?
No, you don't need to go anywhere. You keep
Ah,
saying Denver
departure
radar,
end of runway.
Springs
What am I
approach.
talking here? An idiot.
Springs approach, roger that. 739 Sierra Charlie.
Eagle Tower, November 650 Charlie Lima, short of 25, ready for departure.
Number 650 Charlie Lima, Eagle Tower, runway 25, cleared for takeoff.
25 clear takeoff, November 650 Charlie Lima. Rock and roll. Brakes off. And run the checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Passenger signs. Advised on. Anti-collision lights. On. Probes. On. Windshield heat. On. Wing and cowl anti-ice.
It is not required.
Continuous ignition.
Arm is clear.
On.
Approach is clear.
ATCT CAS. TA Array. Supplemental ground wing anti-ice panel. Checked. CAS takeoff config OK.
It's checked. That's
Landing pulse. Cockpit lights.
Walker 542, contact Seattle Center
Before takeoff
125.1.
checklist complete. After takeoff checklist next.
lineup was a little bit poor. Well, let's go. Everything checks out. Let's go. ATS. And we're looking for 92.4 on the N1.
Walker 542, Seattle Center, climb, maintain flight level 3900.
And achieved. Airspeed's alive. N1 hold. Feeling a little bit correct crosswind here. There's a V1. Rotate. Positive rate. Gears coming up. And I'm immediately, well, I'm going to wait for 400 feet. And we're going to do the turn.
Southwest 2219, contact Oakland Tower 127.2. 272, Southwest 19, see ya.
Just following the flight director here. There, we've met the constraint. Now we're just going to track and follow the flight director.
Oakland Tower, Southwest 2219, ILS, runway 30. Southwest 2219, Oakland Tower, runway 30, clear to land.
Okay,
Clear to land 30, Southwest
safe.
2219.
Gonna go ahead and punch the autopilot on.
650, Charlie Lima, contact Denver Center.
Contact Denver Center, number 650 Charlie Lima. Okay, speed up to flight level change actually. Flaps are up above target speed. Denver Center, November 650 Charlie Lima, passing 10,200, climbing via the Beaver 2.
650 Charlie Lima, Denver departure, radar contact. Correction, Denver Center. Climb via set, accept maintain flight level 230.
Climb via set, accept maintain 230, November 650 Charlie Lima. Hey, 230. Set.
For 9er Sierra Charlie, contact Springs Tower.
Also speed up to 250. Actually, no, not 250. We gotta give it over to, we're gonna give it over to the FMC system here and meet the constraints. The 230 set, we got FMS Speed Control. We're on the departure, everything's looking good, so let's go ahead and run the after takeoffs.
After takeoff checklist. Landing gear.
November
Flaps.
739er Sierra Charlie,
0.
Denver, correction,
Cross
Springs
reversers.
Tower, enter a right downwind, runway
Off.
35 right.
Ignition.
And actually, if you're parking at
Off.
GA, you can enter a left
Pressurization.
downwind, runway 35
Check.
left, and runway 35 left. Clear to
Tax
land.
transition.
Just in time, 15,000 is the maximum altitude above which, up until which we are allowed lead extraction.
Completed. N1. Climb set. APU generator. Off. APU. Shutdown. Passenger signs.
We'll keep them on for now.
CAS.
Checked.
After takeoff checklist complete.
We have that thing where you can spin the knob faster and the altitude above moves in bigger steps. It's already accelerated, so yes, it does that already. Well, coming up to transition here. If I forget about it, it automatically actually warns me. If I just sleep through the thing, it'll start blinking here at me. Let me know. So standard there, and the first officer's already switched their side over to standard as well. So got that linked up currently. And your co-pilot is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Number 9er Sierra Charlie, yep, that's 2995 is current with information kilo. Zero Charlie Lima, contact Denver Center 133.67.
12367, November 650 Charlie Lima.
Walker 602, contact
12367. Denver Center, November 650 Charlie Lima, flight level 204, climbing flight level 230.
Walker 602, San Francisco Tower, runway 28 right, clear to land. November 650 Charlie Lima, Denver Center. Climb and maintain flight level 400.
Climb and maintain flight level 400, 650 Charlie Lima. Cool. So flight level 400 is going to be rolled in. There we go. 400 is in. I'm going to take the landing lights, everything off. And since we're pretty stable here, I'm going to shove the seatbelts over to auto, and all is well now. Is the color based solely on altitude? So the color of the terrain here is based solely on the height or the elevation of the terrain there. Yes. Bottle. Or it doesn't use Unreal Engine, so it must clearly be bad. Express elevator to the top floor. Yes, sir.
So it's 2219 Whiskey, uniform into the ramp, monitor ground.
Take the synthetic vision off so it doesn't bother me, but we can keep it on for as long as you want.
542, contact Seattle Center 135.15.
135.15, Walker 542.
So at this point, it's again low intensity kind of situation at this point, so we can go ahead and chat.
Seattle Center, Walker 542, 330, climbing 390.
Looks crazy good. Yeah. Be getting there, yes sir.
Bagels.
Bagels are fine, I agree. I think that's what the person said there. Only photos. What do you mean? What did bottle? It doesn't use. Okay. I'm gonna turn on the panel, the side floods here, just in case it gets dark and everything. We're gonna be able to see inside of the cockpit. Also turn on the center panel floods. Only 43 FPS, 42 FPS, whatever. X-plane clouds as usual, killing my frame rate. Normally I don't have a problem with 40 FPS here, or I'm sorry, 60, or any kind of 60 FPS in general. It's generally not an issue. But I agree, X-plane is a little bit shitty on frame rates at highly dense terrain and everything. So get rid of this, and this guy here we can now switch and take a look at long range. We got maybe 200 miles in the cruise, give or take. We tried those enhanced skyscapes. Intel, they're not available for Linux, so I have not. What are we looking at as the fuel? About a 200-pound imbalance. Not a big deal, really. For up to 800 pounds in flight is permissible. But what we can do is we can balance it out even more. Now, keep in mind, these meters here, they're fairly laggy. And they're also pretty inaccurate. Sometimes you'll see them going up. Especially when newer and hard. EC does work on Linux, right? It might. I haven't tried it. Huh? Whatever. Anyway. So you'll see these guys sometimes sort of jump around and have a little bit of fun. So the way you normally balance a Challenger in flight, if you really want to, generally, the recommendation in flight, unless there's a CAS message, generally not an issue, right? So you don't really have to worry about it. If you're over an ocean, especially don't think about it. Like, I'd say anytime you're over a body of water, your alertness level should go up a lot higher, because there's, you know, if there's a problem with any of these valves, get stuck. It does happen occasionally. It has happened to one of our test pilots. Not on the model, I mean in real life. It has happened to a real Challenger pilot, one of our guys. So for those cases, you always want to think about, you know, where are we going to divert. In their case, fortunately, they were already pretty close to their destination. They just landed normally. But in case you do have a problem there, you always want to make sure that you understand that there's a certain risk involved in reshuffling fuel around. You know, I see people shoveling around with the valves just willy-nilly all the time in sim. In general, pilots in real life are a lot more cautious about, you know, messing around with the fuel system. But let's say we want to show how it's done. We've got about a 220 pound imbalance between them. So you could use gravity crossflow, but that is actually mostly a backup system. Normally, the way you do it is you'd open up one of these aux valves. Since the higher tank here is the left one, we open up the left and let this fuel, left to aux means the aux system is the center here. So that's this number here that says 20 right now. We'd open this up and let about 200 pounds of this, of the left tank, drain into the center. And then there's a pair of transfer jet pumps that will balance this out and basically squirt that fuel back into the wings, basically proportionally to the amount of engine pull that we have. Since both engines are operating, it's gonna get distributed effectively in a balanced manner. So go ahead and open up the left aux valve here. And actually, well, since this is a study thing, I can show you how that works. So we'll open up the fuel study window, I guess. I'll open up the transfer tab. And this is the valve we're going to actuate, the left to aux transfer valve. And if I go ahead and push this button on, the valve's going to open, and the slight differential pressure is simply because of the difference in hydrostatic levels between the left and right tank. Now keep in mind, this is very laggy, this display, so I cannot rely on it as being fully, you know, 100% accurate to the current state of the fuel. In fact, there's probably a couple minute delay. So to make it actually better, the better approach here is to run it for a little bit. You know, we'll turn it on for 2 minutes. And I'm going to turn it off and let it stabilize for a few minutes, and we'll see where we end up. Obviously, as a pilot, you wouldn't have this display available, so we'll just shift it off to the side. You renamed the debug menu to study, huh? Yes, I did. Ooh, study level. Yes, essentially. I mean, that's why the menu is really there. I kind of put it in, I call it debug. Really, I debug the airplane from command line and from debug logs. So the reason why I put in, like, there's a truckload of little, you hover your mouse over any of these windows, they're going to give you a detailed description of what they represent. And so the idea here is to help you study about how the aircraft actually operates. One of the questions we've had from one of our simmer guys is, why does this, you know, green banana, or the altitude banana, which I've got pre-selected to 400, does not match the top of climb point? Top of climb is further out. You know why? Eventually they'll converge, but why was this ahead of TOC there? Okay, well, I mean, you can write it up. You can write up your explanation. Yes, IntelliFX, it's essentially that way. But now you're climbing faster than you would at higher altitude, yeah. Ah, there we go, it's already fuel cross flow valve. So now the balance is, well, they're within 50 pounds, and I still had it open, so I got a little ding there from the system. I was waiting for 2 minutes, but close enough. Now this is actually going to come down a little bit lower. You can see it's still going. I've had the button, I've turned the button off, but this is still going down faster than the other side because this is laggy. Probably should have only used it for a minute or so. Now we got an extra 200 pounds in the center, which I'm kind of surprised that such a low fuel value it actually measures. Yes, so TOC is computed from the perf computation, the predicted system, which there's a performance database on board, and the system is capable of understanding, okay, this is your weight, and actually the way it does it is it, in about 10-second increments, it virtually flies through the path that it predicts, and it basically integrates stepwise how it's seeing from the performance tables. You know, what is my current weight? What is at this point? How much fuel have I burned? How much time have it taken to get here? And what's the new weight of the aircraft? And how fast could I climb at my regular climb power settings? Gravity transfer. I mean, nice the system is so laggy, it would be alright to just use the cross feed and gravity transfer. Gravity transfer is probably even worse, because gravity transfer is very, very dumb. Okay, we got them to within, you know, about 50 pounds of each other, so I'm going to call that good. Any closer than this, you generally just don't bother. Even that 200-pound difference wasn't an issue, but whatever. And yeah, we're pretty close to, I guess, our actual fuel state at this point. Well, reasonably. So again, these are plus or minus about 5% is acceptable measurement error here. So you'll notice, I mean, right now they're pretty good. 3790, 3784 is the truth. So this is actual truth state because this is a little sort of debug helper screen. So they are very close right now. They're within maybe half a percentage point at this kind of an attitude of the aircraft. So they're pretty close. If the airplane was accelerating or maneuvering, they'd be a lot further out. A couple of percent, up to 5% is acceptable error. And especially at low tankage levels, you'll notice, for instance, here it says 240. We've only got 140 in the center tank here, in the center aux tank. Nothing in the aft, nothing in the forward. So this guy's actually out by 200 pounds, not 10. That's because of low tankage levels. It's only got a few fuel probes in here, and right now the middle fuel probes are not reading anything. They're sort of in the middle of the tank. There's a tank level probe on the aft right wall, or close to it, and since the airplane's a little bit nose up sensing, that means the fuel has sloshed over to the back. So this probe is the only one that's kind of measuring something. These two guys are not showing anything. And there's a big correction table inside of the fuel computer that tries and guesses at it, where how much fuel you've got in there. And obviously it's off by about 100 pounds. A good 120 pounds at this low state. If there was more in the tank, there'd be a lot closer, but right now it's pretty far off. Whoa, what was this? We got a wind update, probably from X-Plane. Having too much fun looking at the debug systems. Yeah, probably had a headwind bump.
10% good evening, JetBlue 199, 50330.
199, Denver, hello.
Cool. The climb has now died down because the headwind has stopped being such. There's no more, headwind excessive rate or something. And within 200 pounds, 200 feet, it'll stop blinking, or you can push the button here to stop it right away. If it's annoying you, because it's going to blink for the last 1,000 feet. I get a cappuccino from the coffee machine. I don't know. Do we have capsules on board? Did you not forget to pack them in? Yeah, so this is what the glasses look like. There's even a sink down in here. Are you allowed to take the glass out? Not yet. I'm not sure we're gonna simulate that. We might. We would break if we drop them. Yeah, this is what somebody was talking about. I forgot the name, sorry. Yes, this is how they're held in. They're literally just sort of wedged in underneath a piece of plexiglass there. That's how they're held in. Prevent them from sliding out and falling out. And
Charlie, Springs departure is 124.0.
Ugh, airplane's having some trouble. Keeping the speed here. We're getting hammered here.
Charlie, you're back, correct?
Wind's turning. And we're having trouble keeping up with it. Finally, VLS cap. Mach 0.80. It's actually a protection system which will blink amber speed here if it keeps on decreasing on the speed. So I think it's like 0.03 Mach when you descend, when you're less than 0.03 or 0.02, and there's a negative speed trend, and it'll start blinking speed here to let you know that it cannot maintain what you're trying to ask it to do. And happy speed is way down too. What's the fuel burn like up here? There's a fuel burn, so 1050. First hour, generally, you would assume about 1,100 pounds per hour per side. And the subsequent hours are 1,000 and then 900 pounds per hour is typical burn. Disregard safety and all the boring things. Can you do it?
904 Alpha Zulu, Springs departures 124.0.
At 0.84, doesn't have enough range at this speed. Intel, you would actually not be able to get to 0.84. It gets at 0.83. It sort of hits a wall of drag. You might be able to just about push it up to 0.84 if you're light. Does the HUD have a brightness function? Like you have.
Runway 35 left, taxi via Hotel Charlie.
Does it have a brightness? I mean, you have a brightness adjustment knob here. And I'm hiding the entire combiner.
Charlie Lima, contact Salt Lake Center 135.77.
135.77, November 6 Charlie Lima. 35.77. Salt Lake City Center, November 650 Charlie Lima, flight level 400.
November 650 Charlie Lima, roger. November 04 Alpha Zulu is negative, that wasn't for you, it was just a taxi instruction.
Max reachable at cruise thrust. Yeah, max reachable would be Mach 0.82 typically. 0.82 is easily reachable. And we can go that. We'll see. Depends on the temperature gradients and that kind of stuff. So let's see. We can actually, so this is barometric altitude, and this actually is subject to temperature variations, which we do pull live, since I have live weather enabled. We do pull them live off of the real atmosphere. So we're about there. There's the tropopause. It's actually slowly integrating the tropopause because of the fact that I slowly iterate the changes to make sure they're not jumpy, because this data can be a little bit discontinuous. And yeah, we're... What's the ambient temperature here? Minus 49.8. It's actually ISO plus 6. If the temperature changes, the temperature gradient underneath you, you can actually end up climbing or descending in the jet, even though you think you're flying level. So don't consider, so right now we're at, full pull, and it's barely getting more than Mach 0.81. So that 0.82 probably ain't gonna happen at high temperature. I'm just gonna pull it back to 0.8. If you want to see your geometric altitude, you got to go into GNSS status, and that is your geometric altitude based off of what the GPS unit is giving us. So if we're flying flight level 400 geometric, we're flying 42,400 feet geometrically, or this is really what they call geopotential altitude, but that's what that is. And the GPS units are receiving the WASP service for satellite-based augmentation system, precision approach capable, which is what we're going to use. We're going to do an RNAV. And you can see, even though we're maintaining altitude, we're pretty solid here.
729 Sierra Charlie, better contact springs departure.
We've climbed up 30 feet since I started looking at this. We were 42,430. Now we're 42,470, and I think we're slowly climbing. Just ever so slowly. And you'll notice we're pretty well nailed on barometric 400. There's another 10 feet we've climbed up. And that's the thing with aircraft, you might think that you're flying barometrically at the same altitude. The fact that things that now we're climbing, we should, even if we nose down, we're just about, now it's coming down actually. Yeah, so it has to push the nose over. You'll see that the flight path vector is underneath the horizon. That means geometrically we're flying down very, very slowly, but we're maintaining a solid barometric altitude. And this is what they call flying, this is what they explain to you in flight school about isobars. So a barometric altimeter doesn't actually fly in altitude, it flies at air pressure. And if the air pressure is, the constant flight level 400 pressure point is changing in because of some, shape of the atmosphere because of various disturbances, then that's what you're going to fly. Geometrically, to the airplane, it's going to feel like a climb or descent to the engines and to the performance. But to you in the cockpit here, it's going to look like you're flying at a constant altitude. See, we've descended 70 feet from 42,480 down to 42,10 pretty much. And we haven't budged on the barometric altitude. Anyway, Scarebus driver, to your question, sorry. Yes, the HUD is brightness adjustable. The fact that it disappears like this, I'm going to get rid of that. Eventually, when we have a proper HUD model, 3D model, it's not going to disappear like this. If you want to get rid of the combiner, you would just go ahead and fold the entire HUD away. Yes. Does it have visual display of the grading satellite position accuracy on the 7A? We have horizontal bars, blue liner ND, HUD and ND, deep inward to show you visually your actual nav performance. Right. So it doesn't have quite such a nice feature. Cheers. It doesn't have quite such a nice feature. It will pop up messages here on the FMS when you've got degraded navigational performance. So it'll say, let's see. There's a bunch of
904 Alpha Zulu springs down, runway 35 left.
Something like LPV approach not available or something like that. Pull a GPS breaker. I guess I could, but for the time being, I'm a pilot. I don't want to be messing about with it too much. And you'll get a little flashing MSG here message and also repeater here message to let you know that you've got a message on there, and then you can look in your messages stack and it'll say if you've got degraded performance, and if you do, then you could go into GNSS control and you can investigate why. So you could go and check if you got reduced satellite reception, if you're in mode where the SBAS network is not available. You can even look in here to look at your horizontal and vertical protection limits and or the figures of merit. And you've got your horizontal and vertical approach limit, alert limits for the approach, which are currently none because we're not on an approach or we don't have an approach loaded.
Simply 199, request spot with 350.
Keep that pocket. And you can
JetBlue 199, climbing 10 foot level 350.
Flight level 350, JetBlue 109.
I can, I suppose. I'm gonna be a little bit naughty here. I can go ahead and kill. I can go ahead and kill one of the GPSs. Where are you? You're up here somewhere. IRUs. GPS. There's GPS 1. And we get this kind of a message. GNSS reverted. That basically let me know this is not an amber message, so it's not going to show up here. But it's basically letting me know, hey, left FMS, not showing up on the right. It's basically telling me now that left FMS has switched over to the right GPS for guidance. Seatbelt pocket, well, glad you like them. And if I check over on here,
904 Alpha Zero, radar contact,
you'll see
departure.
GNSS status 1 is Gonzo. GNSS 2 is operating, so that one's back up for us. It's a white message, it's not an amber message, so it's not an actual thing that you need to pay attention to right away, but it is something that you got to be aware of. We've dropped another, what, at this point, like 400 feet, 600 feet, despite saying we're at flight level 400. Let's see, what's that atmospheric model? Yeah, the atmosphere is changing shape right around us as we're flying. Cool, and if I push the breaker back in, go to GNSS control. Well, actually, let me also show to you
904 Alpha Zulu, springs departure, roger.
GPS Unit 1 state. So GPS Unit 1 right now is offline. Normally what it should look like is like so. It's showing me where the solution is relative to the airplane and some debug information from the GPS units. That's the constellation right now. And what the satellites that are active and locked on, which ones are failed, and what's the sort of state of message download the GPS unit is in. Let's go ahead and bring up FMS 1. Push the breaker back in. It'll take a few seconds to boot up. There we go, self-test. The GPS unit is going through self-test right now. And it's entered signal acquisition mode. Not given a position right now, but it's telling us that, hey, I'm trying to lock onto satellites here. And it's going to take about a minute. So it's currently sitting in the downloading phase. It take about 30 seconds to download the navigational messages out of all the satellites it can see. Calibrating. And now it's picking basically which ones we're going to be locked onto. And there we go. Lock achieved. And now it's refining its position estimate. Bit hard to see at high speeds. There we go, enter navigation mode. And we are in 8 satellite lock. It still hasn't acquired SBAS, so SBAS system is now being acquired. It's locking onto the WAS system. So navigation mode means that it's not currently, it's only basically pure GPS, not SBAS augmented. And crazy for iPhone, thanks for the follow, welcome aboard. You'll see we've got no HPL and VPL indicated. That comes from the SBAS system. That's basically telling us what sort of integrity and protection it's given us at our current position. Actually, I think I might take a bathroom break in about a minute or two. As soon as this locks on. There we go, SBAS precision approach. And we've got SPAS, HPL, and VPL, and the system is now in augmented mode. What the SAT fault message be triggered by? SAT fault is if it had locked onto a satellite that was faulty, which in our case we know that we're not going to do, so that's fine. Idgal Green, thanks for the follow. Welcome aboard. How are you doing? I'm going to do a quick bathroom break here, so just going to request that from Salt Lake Center. Salt Lake Center, November 650 Charlie Lima, request AFK for 2 minutes.
November 0 Charlie Lima, second.
Request away from keyboard for 2 minutes, please.
0 Charlie Lima, this is report back.
Wilco, 0 Charlie Lima. Cool, so back in 2 minutes, folks. Alrighty, let's get back into it. We just report back on pilotage. Salt Lake Center, November 650 Charlie Lima is back in the saddle.
November 0 Charlie Lima, descend at pilot's discretion, maintain flight level 240.
PD down to 240, 650 Charlie Lima. Okay, so we got PD 240. And I got a follower. Downrange 35, thanks for the follow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Poor airplane's trying to push hard, but we're got a change in wind, don't we? Yeah, wind's turning, so it's decreasing our speed pretty dramatically. Airplane's pushing, the engines are pushing as hard as they can, but the wind's outpacing us. Now once the wind stops turning, there we go, we'll go ahead and pick up speed again. Starting to get a little bit of turbulence there. So what were people talking about? Some of those death streams, that fault message. This is so amazing that I actually consider getting X-Plane just for the Challenger. Don't touch anything. Well, like dull green, hopefully you're gonna have fun with it. If you do. It's a day one purchase for me, thanks. I'm gonna hoping that you guys are gonna have fun learning and flying it. Are you streaming development? Downrange 35, yes, pretty much. I mean, eventually, yes, I do normally stream development. There should be a VOD or a couple of VODs on my channel here on Twitch. Also on YouTube and stuff about development. Today, I'm just flying, yeah. Helena. Still got 80 miles out to TOD. So we dropped 2,000 feet from previously, just because of the fact that the atmosphere has changed on us, and temperature has changed, and all that other good stuff has changed. Actually, gotten a lot colder. Yeah, it was. Actually, yeah, it was +6. Now it's +3, and the gradient has actually steepened up below us. Now we're above the tropopause, which means that we're going to get a different shape of the atmosphere. Consequently, we actually had to descend by 2,000 feet. We also got a change of wind. That gave a good workout to the engines. Got to recreate a lot of those flights. Told my wife I'd buy her a private jet for Christmas. Look at me. Well, downright sure fact that we're absolutely aiming to have it out by then, but yes. So we got 80 miles to top a drop. I'm gonna go ahead and start on some prep work. I'm gonna plan that it is gonna be, so just quickly jump this over to charts. Go to upper menu. We can go, so the FMS here, or the EFIS, the Electronic Flight Information System, is tied up into the flight management computers, obviously, so it knows our approach, it knows our airport and all that good stuff. And I know that it is, which one is the one I planned for? I planned for RMP Yankee 27 from Susie.
November 4 Alpha Zulu, contact Denver,
I also do Zulu. What is the difference between them? Have a look at it. That is not Chinese, so that would be December. We just get a release date. IRR Garrick, I think we've already been talking about this a while back, that we want to aim for before the end of the year, before the year is out. So what's the difference between Yankee and Zulu? I'm 13,000, that's straight ahead misapproach, so that is essentially the same. Authorization required, GPS required. For uncompensated barrel VNAV systems, procedure not authorized below -22C or above 41. Misapproach requires RMP less than 1.0. That's good. Cold temperature altitude correction required at or below -17. CVG assigned RNAV glide path not coincidence. Pilot controlled lighting 118.3. And it's the same notes here. So is it different minimums? All right, this is RMP 1. So this is for different RMP values.
904 Alpha Zulu, Denver approach to Denver altimeter 3003.
Right, yeah,
no
I got
need
it.
to check in with your position, you've been radar identified.
So the Challenger, there's a note, even though the aircraft is capable of very high precision approaches, there's a note in the avionics that you are not allowed to go anything below RMP 0.3. I guess it's a certification thing. The Collins just didn't want to do all the paperwork, so 0.3 is the one that we are limited to. Straight in landing 27. 435 on the Zulu. 442 on the Yankee. We're gonna go for the Zulu. How about that? Yeah, that's what we'll do. So RNAV.
November 4 Alpha Zulu. No, I didn't necessarily know your destination. We can't see VFR flight plan. I just knew that you were
Susie.
to the north, and I didn't receive a request to cancel flight following.
Go ahead and
you were looking
clamp that away.
In the Denver area.
It's going to give us an updated TOD computation, which is now 100 miles out. Just going to check and make sure that it actually makes sense. So we'll just go ahead and mash the button here. So this is my side, control for the MFD. I push lower MFD, lower format, or I've got it already pre-memorized on certain memory positions here. I can step through the flight plan. So we go to MFD Advance, and I can step through the thing. So this is us, Slate, Susie, BAFTA, and we can actually bring up altitude constraints. So if we bring up display menu altitude, that also is going to give us a little bit more information. Well, that makes sense for speeds, actually. So there's a 230 at FAVTA. That makes sense. Okay, okay. I don't think I'll keep that the way it is. Everything else, up until FAVTA, we can leave VNAV speed control. Below that, I'm just going to take a manual. It looks pretty in the end. It's really look awesome. I know you're a bit busy. Would love an external maybe after a landing. The externals are not quite finished. Their gear is essentially missing. We can do a flyby. Going to be loud though, so headphone users beware. The airplane is very loud outside. It's kind of deceiving because I've got the headset on with ANR. If I switch off the headset, this is just the cabin noise. The outside is a lot louder. So let's do a flyby. Yeah, I'm very particular to sound, so. Good old Hotstar TBM days. Yeah. On Blue Line 1. So, final warning for headset users out there. It's going to be loud when I go to an external view close up. So you have been warned. Year or 3 ago. On Blue Line 1, it's looking pretty good. Going to be ready for you guys. The IR hump is gone, but I need to tweak some textures. Ah, yes. Yeah. So this is going to be removed before release. We're not going to simulate the IR camera for now. We'll see about future, but X-Plane just really doesn't let us do that properly, so I'd rather, you know, we do it right or we don't do it at all. So you're going to have the HUD, but you're not going to have the EVS system simulated for now. We're also going to remove this knob here. It would be interesting if you applied glass material to the HUD and mess with the metalness slider. See what it does. Back in the day, the TBM is all I had and flew. Was in y'all's Discord 24/7. Oh, you can always stop by again. Discord's still there. Cool. So we've got, now we're down to 70 miles, 65 miles to top a drop. So, planning wise, as I said, the system is aware of our flight plans, so you'll see it automatically preloads the charts. You don't want the charts, if you want to change them to something else, you can go ahead and roll the inner knob here and it'll let you select whatever the hell you want. Or if you just want the ones, magenta, by the way, the avionics is kind of consistent in that anything that...
0 Charlie Lima, contact Salt Lake Center 128.72.
128.72, Challenger, 600 Charlie Lima. 1287.
That was broken. Verify November 0 Charlie Lima, Center 128.72.
128.72 for 650 Charlie Lima. Salt Lake Center, November 650 Charlie Lima, flight level 400.
650 Charlie Lima, Salt Lake.
So the avionics is consistent in that anything that the FMS provides is magenta, and anything you select manually, so let's say I select let's know star charts here, I can go ahead and select a different chart, and so now it turns blue or cyan. That lets me know that I have selected it manually, that it's not something provided by the FMS. If I go ahead and select it back over to the FMS provided data, and it turns magenta again. So that's how we know that it's the FMS provided piece of data. Same thing on the bug here. So this is FMS Speed Control. If I go into manual speed control, roll this over, it changes into blue. Now I'm in selected speed control. Or if I want to resume back into FMS speed control, just push here, FMS speed resume on the perf menu page, and it goes back in magenta. Right, HUD can be stowed, yes. Yes, you can stow away the HUD. You don't want it there. Very transparent glass metalness. Always look at the biz jets. And yeah, for X-Plane P3D. Cool. So our initial point will be Suzy. RF required RMP05. We've got RF capability. Then it's FAFTA. We can confirm that. FAFTA is at 230 knots, 9100 or above. So max 230.
Southwest 124, contact Albuquerque Center 124.32.
Then an RF turn to Bosca, 7200 or above. Checks. And Jexit.
Albuquerque Center, Southwest
124, and to the runway. Jexit is 6500 or above. There should be a segment here that says 6500. But
Southwest 123, Albuquerque Center, hello. The Albuquerque altimeter 3002.
actually, well, since this is solid here. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's the constraint 6500 or above. And since this is now filled in, this tells me that this is our final approach segment. So here in Bosca, we would expect that the FMS is going to go into glide path mode for guidance. This approach, straight ahead, climb 13,000 via 267, which is runway heading, track to Gypsy, and via 261 track to Kelty, and via 271 track to Pixie, and hold, continue to climb and hold to 13,000. So Gypsy, we can go ahead and check. So you can see over here says missed approach. So from down here, this is all missed approach. Gypsy, Kelty, Pixie, hold at Pixie. You can also check the hold parameters. Pixie, inbound course 086, which matches the chart. Right turns matches the chart. It's a fixed length 8 nautical mile legs, and it matches on the FMS 8 nautical mile leg distance. And our speed there, since we're in FAA constraints, it predicts that we're going to be at 13,000 in the missed approach there. It predicts a speed of 230 knots inside of the hold. That's all completed for the approach brief. We are in GNSS WASP mode, so SBAS precision approach. SBAS precision approach. We can do our arrival performance. 11 hate jet charts. I think I've gotten used. If I use them more, I'd like them. Don't want to pay for $200 for flight one. This I'll wait for an employer to foot the bill. Ron driver, this is Navigraph charts, so they are jet charts, yes, but it's provided by Navigraph for a grand total of I think about $80 a year plus nav data globally. So this is global jet charts plus global nav data. Getting close to top of descent here, so I'm just going to quickly bash out the arrival performance. I'm going to grab our current weather at the arrival field, so go to terminal weather. The field is KHLN Helena. Punch that into request terminal weather on the data link system. Send. That was fast. 340 at 6. So weather says 340 at 6. 340. That in there. Yeah. Outside air temp is 13. Meter is 30.09. You gotta put the point in. It won't accept it without the point. I don't know why, but that's the way they designed it. Headwind 2, right 6.
November 0 Charlie, just to verify, did the previous controller give you a descent?
Affirmative. We got PD down to 240 from the previous controller. 650 Charlie.
Thank you.
And we'll look at our predicted weight is 34.8. So we'll punch in 3.
November 4 Alpha Zulu.
34.8.
Verify your altitude for me.
And it'll compute the speeds. Predicted landing distance, actual landing distance 2878 feet.
You entered Bravo airspace without
129, 129, 153 for final takeoff speed in case we have a go around. We can go ahead and send that over.
Cleared to enter. November 4 Alpha Zulu, you're cleared to
Yeah,
enter.
that's all good.
Class Bravo airspace, and make straight in runway 35 left.
So how are we looking? We're getting very close to the top of drop there.
Unfortunately not. Those are not the same thing. Flight following and Bravo clears are completely different concepts and mutually exclusive. So if you call me up with flight following and I say radar contact or anything of the sort, it does not clear you in a Bravo airspace until you hear the phrase cleared to enter or cleared through Bravo airspace.
So we'll check the pressurization here. Field elevation is 3877.
Yeah, if you were planning on staying up that high, yes, you should have been like, hey, I'm going to be at 9.5 all the way in.
3870, so there's 3800 give or take.
Small propeller like you would stay underneath Bravo airspace until you're a lot
Our
closer
meter for landing is 3010. We'll just make sure that it's about a little bit.
You're clear to enter Bravo
30.
airspace. Make straight in, runway 35 left.
Okay, coming up to top of drop there. Now we're cleared up to cleared down to 240, so that's what I'm going to punch in. 240. And we'll just let the airplane drop on its own. That basically is authorized the descent. And we can see index, progress. Page 2, getting really close there. Just about ready to start dropping. We're less than a minute. There we go, 5 seconds to top a drop here. We get the snowflake coming down. Salt Lake Center, it's November 650, Charlie, leaving flight level 400.
Roger.
Just a courtesy call there. Let them know that we're dropping. I programmed the wind. Is it similar to the bus? And then it has minimum ground. No. It's different. So you said the FMS doesn't show distance to top of drop.
133.3.
It doesn't show it on here, but you can actually get the info if you. Well, we're already past it, so it's not going to show it up. But you can switch this display into MFD data, and if you go display menu, swap to flight plan progress, it's going to show you your distance to a TOC or a TOD point. So you can read it off there if you really want it. With pilotage does the ATC. Blissneer, it's a paid service pilotage, so there's a bunch of controllers that are paid by the network to be on for guaranteed coverage. And Airbus driver, what the wind is for is this is our landing.
That was broken. Say again.
This is our landing performance calculator. So by entering a wind, this actually factors into the actual landing distance computation. So
904 Alpha Zulu, enter tower, runway 35 left, little land.
I don't need a separate EFB to do landing performance computations for me because it's all built into the FMS anyway. You don't have to do anything extra. It understands all kinds of stuff, and there's a whole truckload of other performance data in here that you can read out. For example, if we were limited by, landing weight is 34.8, max landing weight is 38,000, but if we were limited by some other performance things like climb performance limitations, if we had a single engine misapproach, we could punch in actually our required climb gradients if they were very, very restrictive for the airport. Or if we had an inoperative engine bleed, or we had to use bleed extraction. For this case, we're going to run the bleeds off of the APU. But if we had other requirements, then we could do that as well. If we had an inoperative thrust reverser, and it even considers runway conditions. You don't even have to use a canned runway directly. So it pulls this runway from your approach, so there's very little chance of you making a mistake. But if you did want to use a different runway, you can just punch in. Let's say I don't want to arrive on 27, I want to arrive on 09. Now that'll invalidate our previous computation, it'll recompute them, but that's how you do it. You could, theoretically, if you didn't want to use a specific runway, you could even just go ahead and punch in, you know what, I expect to be arriving on a runway that is 6,000 feet or 3,000 meters long,
542 contact, Oakland Center 132.
and you just punch in, I expect to have a headwind of 5 knots. And that still works. You can punch in your own pressure, altitude, and that stuff. So this thing is pretty smart about what it lets you do. There's all kinds of scenarios you can compute here. and not shitty CRJ.
Level 390, I'd like to step away for 5 minutes.
Tron driver, this is Proline 21 Advanced, so yes, this is CRJ is the shitty Challenger, yes. Ironic, CRJs are still shitty, they've updated their older ones. Touche. Yeah, so Challenger came first, then came the CRJ. CRJ was derived from the Challenger. And this is Challenger 650, which came out, I think, like 2014, 2016 with Proline 21 Advanced. Yes, Proline 4 is on the CRJs. Something tells me that we're going to be high as a kite, though. Track distance-wise, that MFD data. And we got 90 miles to 82 miles to go to the runway, and yeah, we should be fine for a continuous descent. The FMS aims for a 3-degree path, which is what I've got programmed in as default. You can change it if you want, so you got a very, very specific operating requirement. You can go into FMS defaults here and punch in a default descent gradient, which is, there you go, descent angle. That'll apply to a new flight plan whenever you want, or you can even for a specific run for a specific flight plan. If you only got for one flight plan the need to do that, you can go into perf twice. If you punch this twice, it'll take you to the perf menu, or you can just push here perf menu, VNAV setup, and into VNAV descent, which is right now the active phase, so it automatically jumps to that. You can punch in a new vertical path angle if you want that. It'll let you do that as well. Cool. Let's run the descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Shoulder harness.
Yes, adjusted.
Passenger signs
are auto. They are auto.
Pressurization.
Yes, set.
Fuel quantity and balance.
Fuel quantity is perfectly good. Balance is good.
FMS landing data charts.
Is set and checked, or programmed and set.
Approach briefing.
Reviewed.
VNAV transition flight level.
It's flight level 180 here in the US. It automatically pulls that in. Actually, whenever the airport does have that information published, it'll automatically, that's just for the alert here, for the, if you forget to transition the altimeter. So that's, and since again, since it was magenta, you know that it was pulled automatically from the flight management system. If this was blue, it would be, if I punch it in manually, it would be blue, basically.
Descent checklist complete.
That's it.
In range checklist next.
Does it have underpowered hair dryers for the CRJ 200, or better, they almost doubled the amount of the CL700. Those the lesser amount of matter. Tron driver. Here it has this. Yes, they're the exact same engines. Huh. I'll pull the speed back because I think he might have forgotten about me. Pull the speed back to 250. Salt Lake City Center, November 650, channeling a level of flight level 240.
Resume Charlie, descend and maintain flight level 180.
Descend and maintain 180, 650, channeling. So, roll you down, and I'm going to let it actually re-accelerate. It's going to be a small, going to be a slightly dive-bomby approach here. So 180 is preset. Hopefully we'll catch up to our required profile just by slowing down. So Tron driver, the Challenger has the exact same engines as the CRJ, but it has a whole heck of a lot of mass to push them with. So that needs pushing with the engines, so it's a lot snappier. I mean, you might have seen the departure, it was fairly rocketing.
Zero Charlie, descend and maintain 13,000, the Helena altimeter 3009er.
13,000, 3009er, 650 Charlie. Cool, 3009er. We can actually preset that, so if I bring this up,